It's a beauty, Clark. The 123rd United States Open coming to pass, and it's Wyndham Clark outlasting all others. A final round 70 even par that included a host of gutsy par saves, enough to propel Clark into that coveted club of major champions. With a winning score of 270, Wyndham Clark, forever a United States Open champion. First word goes to our guy, Michael Breed. Michael, excited to break this one down with you. Another major coming to pass, and it's Wyndham Clark, the top name on the leaderboard. Many different directions we can go here, but emerging thought headline on Clark is what?
Well, I mean, this guy has been, you used the word emerging. This guy has been emerging for a while, and I think, you know, we've all known the talent of this young guy. The club head speed is crazy good. And all facets of his game showed in a final round of a U.S. Open. The putter was really, really good. He was incredibly solid when he needed to. That lone miss when he makes bogey late on 16, that's the one that kind of blemishes. And really, that's the driver that you hold accountable for that. But you know, you think about the irons and the trajectory and the apex and the short game, the up and downs that he makes at 8, 9, and 11. And I know at 8 you were thinking, man, he's going to make 4 here and gain a 3-shot lead. And he kind of rolls that over a little bit. It comes into the misses the green left. He's unable to get that shot onto the green, and then you know how it goes. But he gets it up and down to save bogey there, which was huge. And then of course the shot that he makes at 9 when he misses that shot to the left, and he gets that up and down. And then, of course, I mean, it was a display of a guy that we know has great maturity, great talent. But for a lot of people that don't follow the game, they really don't know what this guy is all about. This guy is a world-class player, and it's not a surprise that he would hold it together and do what he did on a Sunday at LACC.
The U.S. Open always asks questions, maybe that other weeks do not. And Clark, we've seen him answer those questions, winning his first career PGA Tour title a little bit more than a month ago. Emboldened by that, now rattles off a major championship. You mentioned the iron play, 173rd in the world a year ago. Strokes gained approach 13th on tour, and that number likely to get better after this latest triumph. We talk about the game being great, and that's hard work, dedication, everything that he's put into it. Where do the guts come from to look a guy like Rory McIlroy, a guy like Scottie Scheffler, even a Ricky Fowler in the eyes and say, this one's mine?
You know, I think that has to do a lot with who he surrounds himself with. I think Jeff Smith, his coach, who he's had for a long, long time, is a remarkably gifted coach, and his insights are tremendous. But he's also surrounded himself with a mind coach. He's got a wonderful caddy who's been with him since he was playing at Oregon. And so you think about what it takes now to be a successful individual athlete, and it is the same as what it takes to be a great athlete on any team. You need a great team, and he has done that. And they have instilled the belief in him that he obviously now has and needed. And he talked about how important it was for him to start to believe in himself and what he can do. Look, and I said this earlier, we have all known the skill set that this guy possesses. He doesn't have a weakness. And you think about, like, what is somebody, even look at Scottie Scheffler. What is his weakness? Not a great putter. Well, you know what? Wyndham doesn't have that problem. Or you think about short game talents. Yeah, he's enormously skilled in that category. Tremendous clubhead speed, wonderfully high apex. That's the thing that Rory McIlroy, like, he can separate himself at major championships because he hits it so high. You know what? Wyndham Clark does the exact same thing. And so when you think about this guy is a world-class name. And this guy is going to be around for a long, long time. He's going to be winning major championships. He's going to be on Ryder Cups and President's Cup teams. And what you're going to see from this guy is when push comes to shove, this guy's not afraid. He just isn't afraid. And he hit all the shots he needed to down the stretch.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that, because this feels like there's some real staying power in this skill set, not just the game that he trots out, but the mental side of it that he's also accumulated. Talked about wanting to play cocky this week. It's easy to be cocky when your name is on the trophy. We'll see if he moves forward in that ilk. Only 6 major starts prior to this week, missed the cut in 4 of them. We're talking about a guy who's being catapulted by a moment here, Michael. What does number 1 do for a golfer when you go from a have-not to a have in terms of major championships?
Well, I think the whole thing in anything is belief. And I think once you get belief, whether it comes from you or it comes from outside into you, you have to have the ability to stand over a shot in a moment and believe that you can do it. And you know what was crazy to me was when all the fans came onto the 18th fairway and all that, there's a lot of commotion going on there. And this guy hasn't won this U.S. Open yet. And he's never won a major championship. And he's just coming off, as you said a month ago, winning his first PGA Tour event. And to have the calm and the reserve and the talent to be able to trust yourself when all that commotion is taking place, and from 60 feet, hit it up there to 1.5 feet. I mean, you know what that tells me? That tells me that this guy has a belief inside of him that I don't know can be ripped away. And, you know, there are so many ironies to this whole thing, because what you also saw was a guy in Ricky Fowler, who back in 2014 was a guy that you thought he was going to go out and win major championships. He didn't do it. And then you also saw with Rory McIlroy, a guy who last won his major championship in 2014. And you thought, this guy's got a whole lot of majors in front of him. And then all of a sudden, here comes Wyndham Clark, who stares into the face of these two gentlemen and goes, you know what? Not today, boys. This one's mine.
Clark, with a carbon copy of that Ricky Fowler putter, proves to be Excalibur here on Sunday. I want to stay on the putter, Michael, because you see things technically that we do not sometimes. I want to go right to the putter of Rory McIlroy, because it felt a lot like Sunday at the Open Championship a year ago. Great play, tee to green, largely speaking, and then unable to hole anything. What did you see in the stroke of McIlroy? It looked like it got a little tentative throughout the day. Would you prescribe to that?
Well, I would say this. You know, he only made one birdie the whole day. That was on the first hole, where he hit a beautiful drive and a very nice approach to the right side, rolled it down there to about, I don't know, inside of a foot, and he made it. And after that, there was nothing. He misses that putt at number 8, that short putt at number 8. He had another opportunity later in the round that he didn't take advantage of. And if you go back and you look at all the putts that he hit, they all came up left or short. And what that tells me, to your point, is extremely tentative. And what I would say is that when you play these championships, you have to be aggressive at times. You have to be wise enough to kind of withdraw and not force the situation. But at the same time, you have to go out and you have to take it. And what it seemed like with Rory was he was almost asking for somebody to fail instead of him going out there to win it. And what I think that Rory's going to learn from this is that when you get into that situation, Rory, you got to stay aggressive. And particularly on this golf course, you cannot turn to the second 9 on this golf course and think that you're going to shoot a low score. It doesn't happen. It didn't happen all week. It's not happening on a Sunday. It's not happening on a Sunday when you have a chance to win. And what you have to do is you have to take advantage of the par 5s, which he didn't do. You got to take advantage of the short 3, which he didn't do. You got to take advantage of the short 4s, the 6th hole, which he didn't do. And so to me, it was almost like he stopped keeping his foot on the pedal. He didn't push on the pedal. He didn't keep like grinding at it. He kind of let it happen. And I think at some point you got to let it happen, but at some point you got to go take it. And if he's going to win that major, that next major, he's got to learn from this that you got to go take it.
Yeah, that was the strategy at the Open a year ago as he watched Cam Smith fly by. That's the strategy again here at the U.S. Open. And in the position of chaser, it was not a winning strategy at that. You know, sometimes we talk about scar tissue playing armor in this game. You got to feel the losses before you can get to the wins. Rory McIlroy's had plenty of wins and losses on his name, but we're approaching a decade without a major championship here. At what point does that scar tissue stiffen? Does it feel like it gets heavier and heavier each time we have one of these near misses for McIlroy?
You know, it's a great question, because what we really had thought was that Rory McIlroy, the big hurdle for him was winning not another major, but winning the career Grand Slam. And that would be winning at Augusta National. And we thought coming into this year that it was going to be just that he comes off a round of golf a year ago at Augusta National in April, where he shoots 64 bogey-free, holds that bunker shot and says, this is going to be really important for me for the rest of the year and going into next year's Masters. Well, he was prophetic in that it was very important for the rest of the year. And he had a wonderful year last year. But now he comes into this year and we're anticipating a phenomenal Masters, and we don't get that. We don't get anything close to that. He never even I don't even think that he hit a shot that he would go, oh, it was a good one. And he misses the cut. And then all of a sudden he puts himself into another position in his mind where he goes, you know what, I just put too much pressure on myself. I got to walk away from this. I've got to kind of downshift and relax. And I think he almost took that too far, and it was almost too relaxed. And you see the tee shot that he hits on 17, and it's a fairway over. And you're thinking, what are you doing? You got to go and you got to hit that little cut shot off there. You got to play aggressive. You got to give yourself an opportunity on that left hole location. You got to get on the right-hand side there. And he missed the fairway at 16 as well. And so you start thinking, what is going on? And then he misses the fairway at 14 as well. The club that we want to attach to Rory McIlroy is the driver, and the driver was nowhere. It didn't show up in that on those last 4 or 5 holes. And so for me, when I look at this, I think to myself, this guy has to understand that if you're going to win this next major, you cannot let it be handed to you. You've got to go out there and take it. You got to put the pressure on yourself to demand excellence. It's another one of those Lombardi quotes. You strive for greatness in hopes for excellence. And what he has to do is he's got to demand that from him and use what Wyndham Clark said that he did, which is he's going to go out there and be cocky. Rory needs to do that exact same thing in order to win that next major.
And if you're 5 minutes early, you're 10 minutes late. McIlroy comes one stroke short, regardless of his tee time in this one. Michael, he continues to pepper it. Since 2014, his PGA Championship triumph, 33 majors played, 19 top 10s, 10 top 5s. He is right there. Outside of the approach, outside of putting yourself in the right mental frame, is there an aspect of his game? I know the putter escaped him a bit here. Is there an aspect of his game, something he can work on to maybe catapult him to that next triumph? I mean, 2014 at Valhalla is a long time ago, and next year PGA Championship, we're back to Valhalla.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, Joe, because I think about Rory McIlroy, and I really do think that he has the potential to have the greatest skill set on the PGA Tour. I think he has the asset that not a lot of players have, and they do have a lot of clubhead speed, but they don't have the apex. And you think about Jack Nicklaus, you think about Tiger Woods, those are guys that in their era hit it higher than anybody else. Rory McIlroy is that guy on the PGA Tour. So he has that one sort of, talk about baseball being a 5-tool player. There's not a lot of players that have the 5 tools. Rory has them. But the problem is that Rory doesn't have that tool on a Sunday. He shot even par today. That's 70. His final round scoring average on the PGA Tour, he's 135th. He's averaging nearly 71 on his 4th round scoring average. And why is that? It's because that's when you have to perform. And it just seems like Rory struggles with that performance in those big moments. And when you look at what he did in those closing 5 holes, Rory didn't take advantage of the par 5 14th. He didn't take advantage of the short par 3 15th. He made some errant drives, made a big putt on 16. You give him credit there. But truth be told, he did not put enough pressure on Wyndham Clark to make him have to hit a certain shot. So in this particular event, and in order for you to be able to win these, particularly if you're trailing, you got to go out there and you got to hit shots at big times. And he's just not doing that right now.
It goes without saying, but again, another tip of the cap to Wyndham Clark, winner of the 123rd United States Open. That is forever. So are these heartbreaks for Rory. And I know plenty will be said in the days and weeks to come about what he should be doing, what he shouldn't be doing, but it is heartbreak once again for McIlroy. And I think if you look at the rooting interests heading into Sunday, a lot of McIlroy, a lot of Fowler, and maybe a little Wyndham Clark. It's the Clark camp that comes out victorious, but maybe a word here on Ricky, who was just unable to get the engine to turn over from early onset to his final putt. What did you see or not see out of Fowler on Sunday?
Well, I'll go back to one other thing, and let's add Scotty Scheffler into the mix on this one, too, because there were a lot of people that were rooting for him as well. What did I see out of Ricky Fowler? There's another sort of very timid start for him. He drives it to the right at hole number 1. He was just off. He hit some really errant shots. He missed some key putts. And again, to me, it's the speed of the putt. A lot of people were saying that the greens were slow today. I don't think the greens were slow today. What I thought was there was a lot of timid play out of the players in those final groups. And I thought that's why it looked like the putting surfaces were slow. But Wyndham Clark didn't have a problem with that. Scotty Scheffler, not known as one of the great putters on the PGA Tour, and certainly struggling with that. And Ricky showed the exact same thing. Ricky was uncharacteristically off today based on what he has shown us all season long and what he showed us in the 3 prior rounds. And when you think about what happened at the end of the day yesterday, this time last night, you know, Ricky comes into that 18th hole and he 3-putts that last hole. And what would have this day been like if he'd had a 1-shot lead versus being tied? You know, I think about that. And then I think about the rough start that he gets off to. And the next thing you know, like, this guy who was leading with 19 holes to play, all of a sudden now is nowhere to be found. And it's because that same thing, you know, he goes through a very difficult time, 3 years of really tough play. And John Tillery's a great coach, and he really kind of helped Ricky get to where Ricky got to. But Butch Harmon was the guy who brought him over the threshold there, in my opinion. And he got into a position where, you know what, he can go out there and he can win this championship. And he can right that wrong that we thought was going to happen in 2015 and 2016, when after the 2014 season, we're going, man, this guy's going to win every single major. And he doesn't have one to his name now. Again, just like I said about Rory, both of them are absent of major championships since 2014, and Ricky has never had one, even though he's got that players. And so you think about this whole thing and you go, man, in order for you to be able to win, you have to go and you have to put it on the edge. And they didn't do that. Ricky didn't do that. Rory didn't do that. Wyndham did it, and Wyndham won. So when I think about what Ricky Fowler's going through, I think it's been a phenomenal year. And I think I expect Ricky to win this year. I've had long talks with Butch about it. He is swinging as good as he is, as he has ever swung the club. He's putting great. Short game is phenomenal. I expect Ricky to win. But I think this moment might have been just a little bit bigger for him than he was ready for. And you saw that timid play out of him. You saw that timid play out of Rory McIlroy as well.
Yeah, this was not Shinnecock in 18, the setup out at LACC, and plenty played it as such here on Sunday. But it's Wyndham Clark, assertive in his championship. Michael, we appreciate you for stopping by.
You bet. Glad to be here.
All right, taking a look at your last 5 United States Open winners, and there is a theme. It's been the breeding ground for the first major championship. Wyndham Clark goes from 0 to 1, as did Matt Fitzpatrick, John Rahm, Bryson, and Gary Woodland. It's deemed the toughest test in golf. These newbies passing with flying colors.